Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. And now slowly let it out. As your body softens, let time pull you in. From the tips of your fingers, the coolness of the earth rises. A frog croaks in the distance. Leaves rustle gently as they fall from the trees. You are now in the late 18th century, deep within the American colonies. Moonlight seeps through the worn fabric of your tent. You hold your breath, because history is being rewritten. You are no longer an ordinary person. You are a colonist living in one of Great Britain's 13 colonies in North America. For years, you've submitted to laws imposed from across the ocean by England. But something has changed. People around you are restless. In the markets, the taverns, outside the churches. They whisper to each other. Their eyes are filled with worry, their lips trembling with suppressed anger. The taxes imposed by the British Crown chase every penny you earn. The Stamp Act, the Tea Act, the Quartering Act. They keep piling up. Each one presses on your chest like a heavy stone. They rule over you, yet never ask your opinion. You have no representation, no voice, and in the end, conflict becomes inevitable. It's April 1775. At dawn, you walk slowly onto the green at the edge of the quiet town of Lexington. The grass beneath your feet is wet. Your musket is in your hands, and your heart is pounding. In front of you stand the red-coated British soldiers. No one wants to fire the first shot, but then a gunshot, a sound with no clear source. And that first bullet changes the course of history. You run, you take cover. The sound of your heartbeat races against the sound of your footsteps. Dust, the scent of gunpowder, the neighing of horses, shouts, everything blends into chaos. The clashes intensify in concord. This is no longer a small rebellion. This is, without question, a war. There is no turning back now. But everything didn't start overnight. The footsteps of this war had been echoing long before the first shot was fired. For over a decade, tensions between the colonies in British rule had been steadily rising. A growing unease felt more with each passing day, yet rarely spoken aloud, as if something was bubbling beneath the surface of the earth, waiting to break through. In those years, you are a young merchant or perhaps a humble farmer. Your life is quiet, but your eyes are open. You notice the shift around you. People are no longer at ease. The eyes of British officials are everywhere. When the Great War with the French, the 7 Years' War, ended, Britain had gained vast new territories. But that victory came at a cost. Debt. And the bill for that debt would fall squarely on the colonies. You remember, in 1765, the Stamp Act was passed, requiring a stamp on every document, every newspaper, every official paper. It may have seemed small, but it silenced you. Because it wasn't just about money. It was a sign of Britain's intent to control you. Then came the Townshend Acts in 1767, taxing imported glass, paper, paint, and tea. And finally, the infamous Tea Act of 1773. Each one raised the same gnawing question in your mind. Why is our voice not being heard? You have no representation in Parliament. And yet, you are a Briton too. But you are treated as if you are a second-class citizen. These thoughts begin to surface more and more openly among the people. Crowds gather in front of assembly buildings. Shop windows display calls for boycotts. At night, the whispers in taverns grow louder and more intense. And then comes March 5th, 1770, a bitterly cold winter night. The air in the streets of Boston bites at your skin. A group of colonists is arguing with British soldiers. You stand slightly behind the crowd, hidden beneath a shawl draped over your shoulders. A stone is thrown, then another, and suddenly, gunfire. Sparks tear through the night. Through the smoke, 5 bodies fall. Blood stains the snow. The Boston Massacre. That phrase will be etched into history. But for now, there is only silence. A heavy, shameful silence. This event is not forgotten. On the contrary, it fuels the flames of the people's anger. It becomes the spark of a growing rebellion. And then, on a night in December 1773, in Boston Harbor, the moonlight is pale, the waters are still, but aboard the British ships are 342 chests of tea. You walk toward the harbor that night. A blanket covers your face, your clothes made to resemble those of the natives. But no one is truly fooled. You're all Bostonians. And that tea will be your final message to England. You board the ships in silence. One by one, the chests are tossed into the sea. The scent of tea mixes with the salty water, drifting into the night air. The waves gently carry this dark ritual. And you feel history being written. Your heart pounds, because you know now there is no turning back. This act drives Britain into a frenzy. In response, Parliament passes punitive laws to force Massachusetts into submission. The harbor is closed, and self-governance is suspended. They call them the coercive acts. But in the colonies, everyone knows them by another name, the intolerable acts. And they truly are. And then comes that pivotal moment. In September 1774, delegates from the colonies gather in Philadelphia. The city at the time is filled with the scent of fresh bread and dusty cobblestones. The clatter of horse-drawn carriages echoes through the old stone streets. Even though you're not there, your heart feels the atmosphere of this gathering, because these men speak on your behalf. On behalf of ordinary farmers, craftsmen, merchants. In other words, on behalf of you. George Washington, an esteemed man from Virginia, quiet yet standing tall, as if destiny has already marked him for greatness. From Massachusetts come John Adams and his brother Samuel, their eyes burning with determination. Patrick Henry, when he speaks, the air in the room changes. And John Jay, the brilliant legal mind from New York. They come from different places, but their hearts beat in unison. Justice. This gathering, the First Continental Congress, does not yet call for independence. That word is not spoken aloud, not yet. But what they say is clear. We will pay taxes, but not without representation. These words echo through the cracked walls, again and again. Sometimes with restrained fury, sometimes with calm and steady resolve. The Congress denounces the stationing of British troops in the colonies without consent. This military presence, looming over civilians like a shadow, is nothing short of occupation. At the end of the meeting, a declaration is issued. They proclaim the natural rights of every human being, the right to life, liberty, property, assembly, and trial by jury. You, perhaps far away at that moment, walking along a village road, feel the spirit of that declaration in your chest. These words are now your words too. That night, as torches flicker through the streets, eyes meet in silence. No one speaks aloud, but everyone is thinking the same thing. A step has been taken. Unity has begun. The Congress says, if necessary, we will meet again. And they set the date for May 1775. But fate will not wait for their plans, because by then, the fighting will already have begun. And then, that night arrives. A night when the air is cool, but the tension in it burns hot. The date is April 18th, 1775. Boston lies quiet, yet it's the kind of stillness that comes before a storm. The street lamps flicker with a trembling light. The hooves of horses echo off the stone pavements. A brave man named Paul Revere rides through town after town, breaking the silence of the night with urgent cries. The British are coming. You're awake that night. Maybe it's an instinctive unease that keeps your eyes open. The fire has gone out, but a spark burns within you. No gunshots yet, but your heart is pounding like a drum. From outside, the sound of horses neighing slices through the stillness of the town. You hear a knock at your door. When you open it, a militia rider stands there, sweat streaming down his face. But in his eyes, there is no fear, only resolve. "Get ready," he says. "The time has come." Suddenly, you're on the road. You take up your weapon, a musket perhaps, one you've never even fired before. It doesn't feel light in your hands. It carries the weight of responsibility. You move forward with your comrades. The moonlight stretches across the earth like a blanket of silver. The shadows of the trees are long and unmoving. This night is different. You can feel it. And then, the morning of April 19th. The sun has not yet risen. The sky lies somewhere between gray and navy blue. When you arrive in Lexington, the air is heavy with mist, the ground damp with dew. Footsteps, murmurs. Everyone is silent, yet alert. From the distance, the red-coated British soldiers appear, neat, orderly, as if they were marching to a ceremony. But everyone knows this will mark the beginning of a war. Weapons on shoulders, eyes fixed forward. Then suddenly, a shot. No one knows where it came from. Perhaps it was fired by mistake. But that bullet cuts through more than the morning air. It slices through history itself. The shot heard round the world, they will call it. And in your ears, it echoes like a ringing roar. Everything accelerates. Smoke rises. Screams, gunfire, horses, the smell of gunpowder, sweat. As the crowd breaks apart, you run, your musket clenched in your hands, lungs burning with the sting of acrid air. You and your fellow militiamen regroup at the bridge near Concord to stand against the retreating British. That place is no longer just a crossing. It's a battlefield. The sky is gray, the ground muddy, but the belief in your eyes is unshaken. You meet them at Concord Bridge. You glance at the old farmer beside you. A young fisherman stands on your other side. You may not know each other, but your hearts beat for the same cause. The muskets speak. The British fall back. You see, for the first time, hesitation in the enemy. And that is a sign you can resist. On the way back, walking in silence, only one thought echoes in your mind. Everything has changed. This is no longer a skirmish. This is a revolution. And you were there, where the echo of the first shot still hangs in the air. The earth beneath your feet now feels different. As if, for the first time, it's listening to you. With each step, it senses your will. With each breath, the scent of freedom becomes a little stronger. And in that moment, you understand. This is not just a war. These are the first heartbeats of a nation being born. You raise your eyes to the newly rising sun. The horizon glows with a pale orange hue, morning mist drifting slowly across the land. In the distance, a few birds call out. The tents are still damp with the night's dew, but you are awake. You sit slowly. The quiet breaths of the horses nearby feel like the whisper of an approaching decision, vast, inevitable, and yours to face. News arrives from Philadelphia. The Second Continental Congress has reconvened, but this time it's different. This time, they're not just demanding rights, they're ready to act. Among the delegates are both familiar and powerful. New names: Benjamin Franklin, an elder statesman known for his wit and wisdom, and young Thomas Jefferson writing with elegant words and a heart forged of steel. A new army is being formed. Its name, the Continental Army, and its commander-in-chief has been chosen George Washington. Something stirs within you. When you hear Washington's name, a wave of confidence washes over your heart. His firm stride, steely gaze, and calm patience, he feels like someone who could change the course of this war. Days pass. It's mid-June, and you're in Boston. On the slopes of Breed's Hill, you dig into the earth. Sand and stone slip through your fingers. You don't have a proper shovel. You're digging trenches with whatever you can find. Sweat stings your eyes, but you don't stop. Because you know, the British are on the move. General William Howe's forces are approaching, and you're preparing for what might be your first major battle. June 17th. The sky is clear, but the air is heavy. The waves lap gently at the shores of Boston Harbor. British ships silently land troops on the far bank. The redcoats line up disciplined, well equipped, but you have a trench, and you have courage. The battle begins. You rest the barrel of your musket on the edge of the earthworks. Your fingers tremble, but your eyes are steady. The order to fire doesn't come immediately. Your officer shouts, "Don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes." And you wait. Your heart beats like a drum. Then, a signal. And suddenly, the scent of gunpowder, the thick smoke, the chaos. Hours of fighting, the British charge again and again. Each time, they're driven back. But in the end, your ammunition runs out. Hands shake, shoulders slump, and the British take the hill. Yes, technically, it's a British victory. But that's not what you feel. What you feel is this: our army can fight. It can resist. The British suffered heavy losses. And now, the morale has shifted. Time moves forward. Autumn arrives, and then winter. Washington's army surrounds Boston, but the conditions are harsh. Food is scarce. Clothing is thin. The cold bites deep into your bones. Most nights, you huddle close to the campfire, wrapped in a threadbare blanket, shivering as you sleep. But the hope inside you never fades. Then, one morning, the news spreads. Cannons from Fort Ticonderoga have arrived. You and your comrades begin hauling them to the heights, dragging those massive guns across frozen ground. Your feet go numb in the snow, but you don't stop, because this will change everything in the siege of Boston. And indeed, it does. March 1776, a sunny yet windy morning. You look out toward the harbor. British ships are departing from Boston. General Howe is pulling his troops back to Canada, leaving behind smoke and bitter resentment. But what you see that morning, as you gaze across the bay, is something else entirely. The power of resistance. An invader retreating from your land. And the first great victory of a nation being born. That night, there's a quiet around the campfire. Everyone is pensive, because now the reality of war is felt more deeply than ever. A city has been reclaimed, but this is only the beginning. Greater battles lie ahead. And you, a member of this people, are no longer just a witness. You are now a part of history. As the night deepens, the campfire dwindles. The flames grow small, but they still flicker. Silence reigns around you. In the distance, the cry of an owl. And before your tired eyelids close, you think once more of the past. Because history is being written right now. June 1776. The war is raging on with full force. And with each passing day, more people are realizing something vital. This isn't just about taxes, or representation, or protests. This is about a people rising for their freedom. You are among them. Everyone is speaking now. In coffee houses, in front of churches, in village squares. The word independence is finally being spoken aloud. And then the great day comes. July 4th, 1776. Philadelphia. The Declaration of Independence is unanimously adopted. The words penned by Thomas Jefferson reach beyond time itself. All men are created equal. You may not be there in person, but your heart beats within that document. Because now, you're not just fighting. You know what you're fighting for. But the Declaration of Independence does not mean the war is over. Quite the opposite. Britain responds with fury. That very same month, the British Crown sends a massive fleet and an army of 34,000 to New York. General Howe returns not to occupy, but to transform the once peaceful harbor into a battlefield. Cannon fire rumbles like thunder. Redcoats land on the beaches. August Long Island, a major battle unfolds. The Continental Army stands its ground, but they're outnumbered and outgunned. Washington is forced to retreat. New York City falls into enemy hands. As you and your comrades slip silently through the streets of Manhattan, your heart aches. To retreat feels like to lose. But when you look at Washington's face, you see it, the unwavering determination. He hasn't given up. By September, you've crossed to the western side of the Delaware River. Fatigue weighs on every step. Your feet are blistered. Your clothes are torn by the wind, but you don't falter. Because in Washington's eyes, there's still a spark of hope. And then, that determination becomes a plan. December 25th, 1776. Christmas night. The cold bites to the bone. Your breath turns to mist. Your fingers are numb. But in silence, you board the boats. Preparations begin to cross the Delaware River. The water is dark, the air icy. Yet inside you, there is warmth, the fire of purpose. By the time you reach Trenton, it's past midnight. The British-paid Hessian troops are fast asleep. You advance quietly. The snow muffles your footsteps. And then the attack begins. A short but effective strike. The surprise works. Trenton is taken. And just days later, another victory in Princeton. These victories may seem small, but they reignite the spirit of the people. What began in despair now stirs with belief. As winter sets in at Morristown, the fireside conversations are no longer silent. Whispers of hope spread. People believe once more. You wrap yourself in your blanket. Your musket rests beside you. Outside, the wind howls, but the storm within you has settled, because you know this road is hard, but it's the right one. There is no turning back. These lands, these forests, these rivers, they are yours now. And you are part of a people who are reshaping the course of history. A revolution. An idea. The final embers of the fire fade. The sky is filled with stars. In a few hours, perhaps a new day will begin. Maybe another battle. Maybe a march. But for now, in this night, there is peace. You close your eyes. And as you drift into sleep, a voice rises from deep within your heart. We are born free, and we shall live free. You sit by the dim glow of the fire. The blanket draped over your shoulders feels heavy, yet it holds you close. Inside, there's a quiet calm, but also a sense of anticipation. Because you know, this war is far from over. And now, as the summer of 1777 slowly approaches, your eyes turn north on the map. New York, the Hudson Valley, and a name you're only just beginning to hear: Saratoga. The British return with a new strategy this time. Simple but dangerous. To sever New England, the heart of the rebellion, from the rest of the colonies. General John Burgoyne marches south from Canada, intending to meet General Howe, who is expected to move north from New York and link forces along the Hudson River. If they succeed, it will slice the colonies in two. But war never follows the plan. In July, grim news spreads. Burgoyne has recaptured Fort Ticonderoga. Old friends who once fought there have tears in their eyes. Survivors, trembling by the campfire, speak of the chaos and retreat. But Washington is now facing a different threat. Howe has changed course. Instead of moving north, he sails south toward the Chesapeake Bay, aiming to capture Philadelphia. And once again, you are on the march. September 11th, 1777. Brandywine Creek. A sunny morning. Light mist dances over the water. The trenches are thick with mud. The British forces are strong and advancing. Washington's army falls back. And 2 weeks later, the British enter Philadelphia. The city falls. But the war continues. In early October, Washington strikes back at Germantown. A short but fierce clash. It's a foggy morning, friend and foe indistinguishable in the smoke. Shadows flicker between musket flashes. But it's not enough. Washington retreats once more, and winter begins at Valley Forge. You and hundreds of soldiers dig in among the trees, building tents in the frozen woods. Food is scarce. Clothes are thin. The cold burrows deep into your bones. But each night, huddled by the fire, your spirit hardens. The cold does not break you. It tempers you. And then, something begins to shift in the north. Howe's southern march has left Burgoyne isolated near Saratoga. The British plan begins to collapse. Word spreads quietly but quickly, even through the bitter winds of Valley Forge. September 19, 1777. Saratoga, Freeman's Farm. American troops under General Horatio Gates lie in wait. Hidden behind trees, they prepare in silence. You can almost hear their heartbeats. Then at command, the battle begins. Smoke, shouting, powder in the air. The British are forced to retreat. But that was only the first blow. October 7th, Bemis Heights. The British regroup and launch a second assault. But the Americans are ready. This time, truly ready. Burgoyne's men are exhausted, starving, demoralized. In the thick of battle, a soldier like you rests his musket on the trench wall, eyes fixed ahead, steady and unblinking. And then, the British fall back once more. 10 days later, on October 17th, the unthinkable happens. Burgoyne surrenders. An entire British army lays down its arms. When you hear the news, you drop what you're holding and sink to your knees. Eyes full. This isn't just a victory. It's a turning point. And that victory sends tremors across the Atlantic. France, which had quietly supported the American cause, now chooses to act openly. In June 1778, France declares war on Britain. This is no longer a rebellion. It is now a global war. Tents line the snowy ground beneath the pine trees. Some nights, it's impossible to feel your toes. But the soft crackle of burning wood and the quiet breathing of your brothers in arms keeps you warm. This is no longer just a war of bullets and strategy. It is a test of patience and will. But this winter is not idle. In this camp, a new breath of life enters the army. Baron von Steuben, a Prussian officer, begins drilling the troops with strict discipline and precision. He shows you how to hold your musket, how to march, how to retreat. He doesn't shout, but his voice is sharp, his movements exact. Every day, you become better, stronger, more prepared. And then Lafayette, a young French aristocrat with fire in his eyes and loyalty in his heart. He has embraced the American cause as if it were his own. His presence brings more than tactics. It brings hope. Your fingers may be numb, your clothes threadbare, but in your chest beats something powerful. For in this place of cold and hardship, something else is being forged, a real army. One that can not only survive, but win. June 1778. A bright summer day. Under the command of Sir Henry Clinton, the British begin their withdrawal from Philadelphia to New York. You, alongside Washington's army, lie in wait near Monmouth. The heat is suffocating. Your uniform clings to your back. Dust swirls with every step. And then the battle begins. The crack of muskets, the deep rumble of cannon fire. Everything blends into chaos. But the fight refuses to end decisively. After hours of brutal combat, Clinton manages to extract his forces and continues his retreat toward New York. There is no clear victor, but this time you are not the one retreating. For the first time, you've stood your ground face to face with a world empire, and you haven't broken. And that means something. In their eyes, you are now an army, not a band of rebels, not a ragtag mob, but a real formidable force. July 8th, sails appear on the horizon. The French fleet under Comte d'Estaing. Their arrival is silent but magnificent. These ships gliding over the water seem to carry with them not just soldiers, but hope from across the ocean. Friendship forged in fire. But the joint assault on Newport fails. The waves crash against the coast, but victory does not yet come ashore. The war in the north falls into a long silence. The guns fade. Footsteps slow. Once again, there is waiting. But to the south, yes, to the south, a new flame has been lit. In early 1779, the British invade Georgia. And in May 1780, Charleston falls. The hot, red clay of the South now crunches under British boots. Lord Charles Cornwallis advances like a shadow. At Camden, he shatters General Gates's forces in a brutal blow. Around the campfire, the news spreads like a chill wind, and you fall into quiet reflection. But every fall summons a new rise. In October, at Kings Mountain, a band of determined American patriots delivers an unexpected and crushing victory against Loyalist forces. The hills echo with the sound of defiance. And then in December, change comes. Command shifts. Nathaniel Greene takes charge of the Southern Army. A soft-spoken man, but sharp and strategic. He reads the battlefield like a chessboard. And with his arrival, hope returns. Morale rises. A new kind of war begins, one of movement, precision, and resilience. The fire still burns. The road winds south. And with every step, you walk not just through dust and danger, but toward something greater than yourself. Toward liberty. Toward history. And then, a new morning. January 17th, 1781. Cowpens, South Carolina. A misty, cool day. General Daniel Morgan is calmly positioning you and the other soldiers. Everyone is holding their breath. Opposite you are Tarleton's troops. The British are advancing quickly, but this time you have a plan. You pretend to retreat, and suddenly an ambush. Rifle shots erupt from all directions. Horses neigh, commands are shouted. And at last, victory. The British are routed. The success at Cowpens changes the course of the war in the South. It may not be a grand battle, but it deals a heavy blow to the enemy's morale and renews hope for the cause of liberty. And now we arrive in the autumn of 1781, the 8th year of war. Your feet know this land by heart now. Your boots are warm, but your march is steady. In every redcoat on the horizon, your eyes carry the weight of years past. In every campfire, the traces of memory linger. General Nathaniel Greene, with all his skill and patience, has managed to wear down the British in the South. Cornwallis's forces have been forced to retreat. At last, they are cornered on the Yorktown Peninsula, along Virginia's coast. There, where the York River flows into the Chesapeake Bay, surrounded by muddy shallows, they find themselves in a dead-end trap. And in that trap, fate is preparing to decide. You are with Washington's army. Beside you are your French allies. The troops of General Jean-Baptiste de Rochambeau march through the same mud, gaze up at the same sky. Together, you are a force of 14,000 strong. And out at sea, looming shadows rise among the waves. 36 French warships. They've blocked every route the British Navy might take. Cornwallis can no longer escape. He can receive no reinforcements. He is trapped. At the end of September, the siege begins. You're digging trenches. Not with a rifle in your hands, but a shovel. But this too is a part of war. With every cannon blast, the ground shakes. At night, as you drift into sleep, the distant echo of artillery leaves a strange comfort in your heart. Those sounds mean the end is near. Days go by. The British try to resist, but their ammunition is running low. Their soldiers are exhausted. Morning of October 19th, 1781. The sky is gray. A light wind is blowing. The camp is unusually silent, because everyone knows today something will happen. Cornwallis announces his surrender, but claiming illness, he doesn't come himself. Instead, his deputy, General Charles O'Hara, arrives. A quiet crowd gathers at the ceremonial field. Dusty uniforms, tattered flags, yet proud and upright stances. O'Hara turns first to the French General Rochambeau. The Frenchman, with grace, gestures toward Washington. But Washington steps back and sends his own deputy, Benjamin Lincoln, to accept the surrender. Lincoln takes the British sword in silence. Only the wind can be heard, and in that moment, it ends. But even then, no one truly believes the war is over. British forces still remain in New York, Charleston, and Savannah. Everyone stays cautious. Everyone waits. But hope is stronger now. In people's eyes, there's more belief than fear. Time passes. For 2 years, no major conflict occurs. Yet the enemy's silence grows longer by the day. And then, toward the end of 1782, British troops begin to withdraw from Charleston and Savannah. In town squares, quiet celebrations take place. Bells ring, people embrace one another. But you remain calm, because the final signature has yet to be written. In November 1782, preliminary peace treaties are signed in Paris, but it takes another year for everything to become official. Finally, September 3rd, 1783, a date etched into history. Britain formally recognizes the independence of the United States of America. Peace is also made with France and Spain. The bloody, painful, yet honorable struggle that lasted 8 years comes to an end. And you, at the end of this long journey, sit beside a campfire, a branch of oak in your hand, playing with the glowing embers. All around is quiet. The sky above is filled with stars. In this moment, as your body rests on the grass touched by the breeze, you are now part of a free people. These lands are now yours. These forests, these mountains, these rivers, all belong to you. You've witnessed the birth of an independent nation. And now, as you close your eyes, all the echoes of the past play in your ears like a sweet lullaby. And in that silence, on the very edge of sleep, one final sentence echoes. We became free because we never gave up.